Good morning. Today is March the 2nd of 2026, the first Monday of March. And being the first Monday of March, well, first of all, it's been snowing a lot. I didn't know that, it could be snow. I think we're supposed to actually get some snow tomorrow on Tuesday, March the 3rd, of course. And so hopefully everyone's staying safe amidst this. I've never seen this much snow in my life, to be honest. Like, I've never seen snow go past maybe 8 inches before. So, a new experience. But speaking of snow, we are talking about the Olympics today, or I guess the aftermath. Some of the stories that have come out from the Olympics that do have some Christian worldview ethics questions. And so we'll be discussing those this morning. You are listening to the Dear Church Podcast. Welcome to the Dear Church Podcast, where we exist to fill your ears and your minds with the study of God to see the world as disciples of Christ. My name is Sam Yang. We have with us Pastor Eugene and Chinsuk and David here. And we are, as we're recording, the Olympics are over. And there are some stories that have come out from the Olympics, especially from the Team USA side. And I thought we could discuss some of those things, especially because there are some things regarding ethics in IVF, ethics in genetic biology, if you will. And so I thought some of those questions were going to be interesting. And our focus and our attention this morning will be on two Olympians. There are two Olympians by the name of Eileen Gu and Alysa Liu. Rhymes, not the same person. And this morning we are focusing on two American-born Olympians by the names of Eileen Gu and Alysa Liu. And the reason why these two particular caught so much attention, maybe even some flack, is because they are American-born of Chinese descent. And
one of their parents.
Right. One of their parents. And so whereas Alysa Liu, who was a figure skater, grew up in America, was educated here, born from a Chinese parent, and I believe a surrogate mother, actually. Chinese parent and a surrogate mother. And she won gold for figure skating for the U.S.
It's an egg donor.
Yes. And Eileen Gu, who was the freestyle skier from America, grew up here, educated here, currently attends Stanford, actually skied for China and won medals for the Chinese skiing team. And so there has been a lot of criticism on Eileen Gu. She has faced a lot of criticism recently just because of her choice in competing for China instead of for the United States when she grew up here, went to school here. Even Vice President J.D. Vance was chiming in, and he was quoted as saying, "I certainly think that someone who grew up in the United States of America, who benefited from our education system, from the freedoms and liberties that makes this country a great place, I would hope they want to compete with the United States of America." And he said, "So I'm going to root for American athletes. I think part of that is people who identify themselves as Americans. That's who I'm rooting for in this Olympics." And that was kind of in response to what was going on with the controversy surrounding Eileen Gu. And it kind of made me think, right, as Christians, this might seem like a non-Christian kind of like who cares? This is sports, athletics, whatever. But it made me think, are there certain, responsibilities that we owe to the state in which we live? Are there responsibilities as Christians, because we understand that as Christians we are commanded to be good citizens of our place of residence? Are there responsibilities that we have towards this kingdom of earth as we live here? Because the whole controversy right now was what Eileen Gu did correct? Was it incorrect? Especially there was money involved and whatnot. But was it correct? Was it incorrect? Why so much criticism?
Yeah, that's good. There's a lot, actually, on that. But first of all, let me say congratulations to the United States of America.
USA.
For all the medals, and their
the hockey team won. Both hockey teams
gold
won. Yep.
For U.S. men's hockey and women's hockey.
Yep.
And it's the most medals that they've had in the last 72 years, I think. And so
I fell in love with curling during this recent
well,
Olympics.
this is where the world found out that Canada cheats. So there's that.
Oh, because they double touched.
They do the finger touch, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, people detracted from Canada.
But Canada is supposed to be good at hockey and maple syrup, but now they just have maple syrup. But even Vermont's catching up in that. So I don't know what
Vermont's
they have.
maple syrup, yeah.
Is it better than
maybe
Canadians?
Better than Canada, yep. Vermontans will say that it is.
I thought it's Vermontonians.
I think it's Vermontans.
Is it Vermese?
Different country, probably. But yeah, congratulations, the United States of America.
Do you think any of them listen though? Like
who would listen? Like American citizens? I hope so.
No, like
You think Canadian citizens listen to that?
like any of the Olympians.
If you're
like
a Canadian citizen listening, then I'm sorry you lost.
Like if we give them congrats, do you think they'll accept it? Like, do you think
The
Olympians
American
Olympians are
Olympians?
listening?
Yeah, I'm sure they listen.
I'll share it. I'll DM
Yeah,
one.
for sure. Just tag them.
Just tag all.
Tag them in this video.
One of
Every
them
single
will.
member of the team. Yeah.
That's true.
But yeah, it's a wonderful thing to root for your country, to be happy, to
Yep.
be proud.
Yep.
Nationalistic in pride, sure, 100%. I mean, there is obviously some extremities that you probably want to watch out for, and these days, all people talk about are the extremities. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
And so, let's go first with Romans 13:1.
Romans 13:1.
5, yeah.
Romans 13:1-5 reads, "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval. For he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Therefore, one must be in subjection not only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of conscience."
We also understand that whoever's leader over you is under God. So no leader is outside of God's sovereignty and authority. And so the governing authorities are authorities that Christians believe that God has placed over you for whatever reason, whatever time, season, age that we're in. So it doesn't matter if you're in, 6080 versus 2026. There's also other verses that we could go through, but we won't go through these,
Peter.
like 1 Peter chapter 2 or Titus chapter 3. Let's go to another one that we've mentioned in the past. 1 Timothy chapter 2, 1 and 2.
1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1-2 reads, "First of all, then I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way."
Yeah, the goal is we want to lead peacefully. We want to lead a peaceful and dignified Christian life. And so, why wouldn't you want good leaders over you? So you should pray for them. This is especially true when the exile to Babylon was taking place, and Jeremiah, God tells them to, make sure you do well there.
Yeah.
Is patriotism then a godly duty? Let's go even further with Proverbs 14:34 and Psalm 33:12.
Proverbs chapter 14, verse 34 reads, "Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people."
Psalm 33:12.
Psalm 33:12 reads, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people whom he has chosen as his heritage."
So there's patriotism, there's justice, humility, all these things, service.
Right.
They all align with biblical values. Serving one's country is also aligned with that. Ultimately, obviously, our true citizenship is in heaven, and we have ultimate allegiance to God. And this is what we saw in Acts chapter 5:29. And so they want to follow the leadership, but if it's against what God has, then they won't. People have interpreted Matthew when Jesus talks about giving to Caesar what is Caesar in a similar fashion. And so these are things that, we'll see that can be a good thing. Patriotism, nationalism. These days, people have been, manipulated. They've been, shamed into thinking that if you say the word Christian nationalism, it's a bad thing. Well, it depends, right? It depends what Christian nationalism we're talking about. And so if you're proud of your country, if you are happy that they did the best they've ever did in 72 years of the Winter Olympics, then, I don't think that's bad. I think that's a good thing. If you want your country to fail, that's another thing. I think that's not honoring. And I think there is a character deficiency there. And so you want to be a good citizen. You want to be a loyal citizen. You want the good welfare of your country so that you can continue to promote godliness in its, societal spheres. Okay?
So how far does that go, though, especially as a Christian, right? It almost feels like maybe as Christians, even though we are citizens of the kingdom of heaven, there is something that we owe to the nation in which we reside, right? And I think that's where the whole Olympics conversation is tied in is, did Eileen Gu owe this to the U.S., which she didn't give to the U.S., but actually people will say she defected. That's the language that people are using, right? She betrayed her home country and went to go ski for a country that paid her the most money. And that's what the accusation is. Do we somehow owe the government something? Like, is that what we're implying through the reading of these passages?
So it's a little complicated. I know people have pushed up against that notion, saying that, we don't complain when other citizens play for their mother country. Like
right.
If another citizen of the United States or made their living in the United States would play for like
NBA players play for like their mother country all the time.
Right, like Bosnia or something.
Or like France or something, yeah.
I don't know about France.
Like, what's his face?
Rudy
Gobert.
Yeah, I don't know about France.
Pau Gasol, the Gasol brothers.
Right, and then, there were people that would go back to Europe, and people are saying you're only doing that because, you're racist and because you play for China. I think that's wrong. What do you think?
Well, no, people are giving her, she says, people are giving her more grief because it is China. Like,
yeah. And I think rightfully so, because China is not an ally of ours, and they are a geopolitical threat, and in many ways an enemy to the United States. They do not want good for us. They don't wish well for us. They would intend ill for us, right? They would be happy with the downfall of the United States, right?
Right.
And so they're not an ally in any like measure. I would say the most generous thing that you could say is that they're probably neutral, but I would think that that's misguided. They're not neutral if you look at all their hackings and how they want to disrupt the U.S. economy and things of that nature, so that they could push their own yuan over the dollar.
But couldn't someone say, well, if that's really the case and if they are geopolitical enemies of the United States, why do we accept so many Chinese foreign students into our universities? Why do we buy so many of their products? Why do we, sell so much of their stuff? Like, how come we have certain relations and we're saying certain relations are okay, but other relations are not okay?
Yeah, I mean, we're not at war with them. I do think that we're at odds with them, not just politically, but ideologically. And, since we're on the podcast, we could say teleologically as well. And so those are things that you have to keep in mind. Can we benefit from some of the things that China produces? Absolutely. I think so. Should we be dependent on them? Absolutely not. Because will they take advantage of us at any turn that they can? Absolutely. So should we be wise in our dealings with them? Of course, right? If it benefits the country, then you might want to, have some dealings. And this is why geopolitics is maybe one of the more complicated aspects of politics. However, if someone else could do it better and cheaper, we would obviously go with the better and cheaper. If someone else could, then, you balance it out. If someone else could do it, around the same price but a little less quality, would you go with them? I don't know. That's when you have to start measuring. So these are all geopolitical issues that you're bringing up too. Geopolitically, I said, they are definitely not a friend. They are a foe. And so those are things that you want to look at. And so it's not the same as France. It's not the same as even like Turkey. Turkey is not a geopolitical ally of ours. And some people go back and they compete for Turkey, but we don't get mad at them because Turkey is not a threat. And so that's why it's at a different caliber. It's at a different level. And secondly, if you understand the huge amounts of atrocities China is even committing today against Christians, against the Uyghur Muslims, I'm not sure that you would like them at all.
No one talks about that anymore.
Yeah, I'm talking about the CCP. I'm not talking about the Chinese people. Although some Chinese people might be for all that, I don't think all Chinese people are. But I am talking about government policies and what the leadership represents. And those are things that are antithetical to even the United States policies and what the United States wants to do globally. They are at odds. You know, if the United States wasn't there, they would have taken over China against Taiwan, against their will, by the way. And so those are things that we know to be, absolutely true. And so, when someone like Eileen Gu goes out there and says, I'm going to compete for my mother's country, and then, she gets it a little bit more complicated because she grew up without a father. It is assumed that she has a white father because she is of mixed race. But her mother is of Chinese descent. So she's saying, I'm just going to play for my mother's country. But she was born here, received all the benefits of the United States, is going to Stanford now, right? And, a lot of people believe that she should at least have showed some fealty to the country that raised her, that gave her all these benefits. Because of what she had in the States, she is who she is. But instead of doing that for whatever amount of money, it's definitely in the millions. People would imagine it's 6 million or more that she received.
I think there's a statistic, I think, that the Wall Street Journal released saying that her and a fellow American-born figure skater who competes for China were paid a combined $6.6 million by the Beijing Municipal Sports Bureau in 2025, and that in all, the two were reportedly paid nearly $14 million over the past 3 years.
Yeah, and so, these are... You can't get over it. It's not just simply about, let's say, I just want to ski for my mother's country. There's money involved.
Right.
And so, some people who don't care about that will just say, well, there you go. I mean, I would go compete for another country if they gave me $6 million. And, I got to tell you, I don't think you would do that. If they said, would you come back to South Korea because you were born here? They'll say, like, could you compete with us because we understand that you're a phenomenal basketball player?
Are you talking about me?
Yeah. And so they offered you like 10 mil, let's say. Would you go back
10 mil to play?
Would you go back to South Korea? And then the US is like, we could really use you because LeBron is retiring now. We need someone to take his spot.
If I'm taking his torch, then I'll go with Team USA because
USA won't pay you nothing. They'll just be like, they'll give you kudos.
But I'm taking the torch from, like, he's giving it to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. I mean, 10 million is nice though, but if I'm that good at basketball,
I'm telling you, it gets a little complicated.
Yeah.
But if you do that, then I would say, let's say you say, South Korea is an ally. People won't give you as much flack. But let's say it's North Korea. Let's say Kim Jong-un came up to you and said, you were actually born in Pyongyang, and that's why your last name is Yang. And
actually, that could make sense because I think my mom's side or my dad's side, one of the sides, is actually from the northern part. And so if they came back to me
and said, you compete for us, we'll give you a set amount of money and unlimited cold noodles, which you love. Yeah.
Yeah,
and so,
that would be tough.
Yeah, if you did that and you accepted the money, I would also think that you should brace yourself to accept the hate.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know why this is like a surprise. I can't believe all these people are hating me. Like, why would you be surprised?
Yeah.
you shouldn't be surprised. I mean, you might not get hate, you might get hate, but you shouldn't be surprised at the hate of competing for an enemy nation. That's what I would think. So, is it morally detestable? I would say, it is complicated, but all in all, I would think that it's not a positive thing.
So what you're saying is if we're going to look at this from a Christian perspective, it's more about not necessarily about what country are you skiing for, or are you competing for, but it's more of what are you supporting? Who are you going out and representing, right? Because it's the fact that it was China who, again, like you talked about, is known for their human rights abuse.
Someone, like a reporter asked her, and she said, I don't know enough to talk about that. I'm not an expert in this. I don't know enough to talk about that. So she didn't talk about that. She was able to, avoid the question.
Yeah.
And so if someone came up to you, let's say you are playing basketball for North Korea, and now North Korea has a chance at getting the gold.
Yeah.
And they're gonna take it from the States, right? Let's say, and then you're competing against
the U.S.
Steph Curry and all those guys, right?
I'll cook them.
Yeah, of course you would. But
I actually have a pretty good mid-range jumper, I think. That's what I've been told. I haven't said anything, but I think I've been told that. I think you were looking at Tunes like for him to say something, but he's busy.
No,
right now.
he gave like a disturbed face.
What kind of crazy hypothetical is this?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's understandable if the citizens of the country that are so loyal and nationalistic, which they ought to be, which is a good
hate.
thing, are giving some criticism,
some feedback.
Yeah, some constructive criticism to Eileen Gu, who, for all intents and purposes, the people in our country feel like she betrayed us because she could have won those medals for the States.
Yeah.
But she didn't. So what goes down in history, medal counts or the 6 mil? And she said, you know what? Let me just get some medals for China. And, this is my mother's country, and I'd be happy to compete for them. Whereas the other side, we saw a stark contrast between Eileen Gu and Alysa Liu. Alysa Liu and her family was informed by the FBI that China was spying on them. They were threatening them. They were a danger to them. The government had to provide for them 24/7 surveillance and assistance and protection because the Chinese government was after them because, her father, well, I mean, people obviously know all this now, but her father was, was a well-known protester against the Chinese government. He would go to other countries and protest from the Chinese embassies.
Yep.
He was in Tiananmen Square.
Yep.
And so he was an avid and very vocal opponent of Chinese government policies and their government in general, which is good on him. Good on him. And so he found refuge here in the States. And he has a daughter, and she goes on to be a figure skating champion of the world.
She
and
won
now
gold.
an Olympic champion,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And so she brought home the gold for us. And so, people should rightly celebrate that. Now, what a great American story. And so I think it's no surprise that when I saw her profile on Instagram, it had a few 100,000 followers, now all the way to over 5 million, I think.
So what we're saying is, as a Christian, again, there is something to be said about representing your country to do good to the country that you are currently
Yeah, as a
living
Christian,
in.
I think there's a lot of freedom in how you can express that. You're saying, as a Christian, can I do this? There's a lot of freedom for
yeah.
it. But, there is something to say about, let's say, leaving your mother country and competing for an enemy of the States.
Not only the States, but of just human rights in general, or just competing against.
I mean, people will always go back and say, the United States also has
Right.
human rights violations.
Sure.
Look at, this and this and this. But, I would say that the atrocities that are committed against Christians is something that, as a Christian, you would probably not want. And maybe she's not a Christian. Maybe she doesn't even care. What was she born in? She's 25. I think she was born in 2001. And I think Alysa Liu was born in like 2005 or 2006. So they're only like 4 or 5 years apart. And so, you got one 20-year-old that she's born in 2005 because she's turning 21 this year. But you got one 20-year-old who wins the gold for the U.S. and you got this 24-year-old who decided to use her, youth and energy and talent, again, all garnered and developed in the States to compete for another country, which, I think rightfully people are upset about. But, if you're asking me if this is a sin or not, I wouldn't go that far. I would just say it's probably, for me, reprehensible as an American citizen. Even Chinese netizens don't even like her, which I find interesting. I see some comments online. Not even Chinese netizens like her. So
Because she's not Chinese.
she's not Chinese. She
She's
doesn't
American.
represent Chinese values. But then there she was when she won gold. I think she won gold, and she was mouthing the Chinese national anthem.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty infuriating because she doesn't even know. She probably learned it.
I mean, she's not Chinese. Yeah, she's not Chinese. That's why the Chinese people on the internet
it's
don't.
different from you going back to North Korea. It's like if I went.
I never was in North Korea, so I can't go back. I'm not from there, though.
You might have been, but it's like if I went back to North Korea, they were like I was never in North Korea, right? I wasn't born there.
I wasn't either. I'm not going back. If I went, I'd be going for the first time. I'd be like, wow, there's a new location for me.
That's what all the spies say.
That is what a spy would say.
Yep,
But anybody would say that.
especially a spy.
I'm not a spy. Is what a spy would say.
Exactly. Hence, you're a spy.
What would a not spy say?
Exactly. What you would say just now. This, by the way, I'm going over Candace Owens's rhetoric,
Right.
and her
The Tucker Carlson, I
tool.
think.
Yeah. It doesn't matter, Erica Kirk cries, she's faking it.
Right,
She doesn't
right.
cry, oh, she's faking it.
Right.
Doesn't matter what she does.
Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, she's wearing pants. She's a liar. She doesn't wear pants. Liar, She comes out on TV. Oh, what a faker. She doesn't come out on TV. She's hiding
Yeah.
from the press.
Yeah.
So in the end, if Candace is right, then you are a spy.
I would hope that she's not right. Because I'm really not. But
Again, that's what a spy would say.
that's true.
Yeah.
But I guess all of this, how does it relate to Christianity, to a Christian worldview? Like, how does it relate to us as Christians in our responsibility as citizens of our nation state?
Yeah, I don't, for me, I'm not a hater of Miss Gu. She did what she did, something that I don't like, something that I will go as far as to say it's morally displeasing. But, she did that, then she could go live in China and have a good life. She could change her citizenship and live there and continue to represent them. That's her prerogative. But if she came here and started to use that, those millions of dollars that she got from China here, then, probably it won't be well looked upon. And I think this is just common sense. This is not even like, I don't need to dig through Deuteronomy to find out this is, weird or reprehensible to whatever degree. And so I don't really dwell on that. I would say I'm more of a huge fan of people competing for the states and winning medals for the states. So good on all the winners this past year in Milan.
But what if someone were to say, well, who cares? She got money. She's trying to take care of her family. Why does it matter? Like, why are we even talking about this?
Yeah. Why are we talking about it? I think it's because, let me go back into my conspiracy theory mode. It's probably because you want people to be like, yeah, she's not that bad of a person. Because once we find out you're really a spy, we'll
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, I guess Sam's not that bad of a person.
Anyway. But yeah, why do I care? Why should we care about this?
I think it's something that interests people because it plays on human character and, loyalty. Is this person of upright character? Would you trust her in the future? And I think it detracted from her character. And we're trying to figure out why. Who cares? Like, let her live. Let her live.
Let her live.
You know?
Can she live?
Just live with the 20 million. It's like, yeah, but would you trust her? I wouldn't trust her. Let's say she goes, you know what, I wanna play for the US. Would you let her play for the US?
No.
I think a lot of people might
The
be like,
ship has sailed.
dude, if she gets a bronze, we know that she threw it. Like, we don't trust her. You know, that's what people will say.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I get it. For some people, who cares? You know, who cares about character, reputation? I got the money. It does not matter. And so, different priorities. You know, different person. I remember when I was a kid, my dad would tell me, "You could lose everything and get it back. You could lose your money, your job, your house. You could always get it back. What you can't get back is your reputation." I was like, man, that kind of stayed with me.
Yeah.
Your character is very important. And so I would say if it costs money, if it costs, you know, anything material to protect your character, your reputation, your dignity, I would probably do that. You know, not in a, you can't do it maliciously or in a bad way, but obviously you would do it in the upright, righteous way.
So moral of the story is don't compete for China. It'll come to bite you.
Well, yeah, I think it is something that we get to see in the world and we get to learn from. So that's something that we get to see. And
Yeah.
and then the people who are like, who cares? Let her just live. We got to kind of see what kind of person they are, right? Would you trust them? You know,
Yeah.
or you know, that's just the world we live in. You know, highest bidder. To the highest bidder go the spoils, that kind of thing. So, so you know, well, all right, then if that's the case, then that's how you might live. And I do believe Christians are called to a different way of life.
The second part of this story is perhaps even a little bit more interesting. There have been reports that have come out on, and I don't know if this is like TMI or I don't know if this is anyone's business, but I believe, as far as I know, that it's known that both Eileen Gu and Alysa Liu were born through IVF.
I don't know about
Alysa Liu. I know that she has surrogate mothers, I believe, or a surrogate mother. Sorry, but there is some speculation that Eileen Gu also was born through IVF, and because her mom is a genetic biologist, there are certain people that have brought up the fact that she may be lab made in the sense of a quote unquote designer baby. And what I mean by designer baby is that the speculation is that there are people that choose to have certain genes expressed where other genes are not expressed. And I think a most common maybe way of thinking about this is if you're a baby if your baby is going to, and you know this, going to have a certain disease or a sickness, let's say, you can choose to have that gene removed or edited or whatever it may be so that your child would not have that disease or be prone to that type of disease. I think one that I've heard of even was a baby that I know within my extended family where the parents were known to have brain tumors in their family. And so because of that, they were able to edit that gene so that their child would not succumb to such situations. And so there is a degree of, are we playing God? There's a degree of what is okay ethically as a Christian. Can we really edit genes? Is that ethically correct? Are we like, what's kind of the deal with that here?
Yeah. I mean, to think that we can absolutely eliminate something because we could just do some kind of CRISPR gene editing, I think is beyond our knowledge. We don't even know exactly how the telomeres have helped us in our genetic sequencing. We don't know a lot of things, and to think that we could just do this and it'll get rid of this. It is something that people want to continue to find out. But I do want to say for the record that Eileen Gu, her being an IVF baby, there is no evidence to suggest it. There's just speculation on Reddit. Reddit's a dumpster fire and a dumpster fire. And so there's no evidence to say that Eileen Gu was a designer baby. We just don't know who her father is. But there is evidence of Arthur Eileen Gu, but there's evidence of Alysa Liu being an IVF baby because Arthur Liu, her father, has confirmed that.
Yeah.
And so, those are things that we get to see. In the end, the genetics of playing with genetics is so murky. On purpose, it's on purpose because you just don't know. That's why people are like, well, if you know this is going to happen and then you choose not to do something about it, aren't you now culpable? Let's say let's say we get to a point where you can eliminate the possibility or probability of you getting the same genetic disorder that your parents have had for generations with just this one move, and you don't do it, aren't you then propagating something, like a defect in your genetic line? And so there have been ethical questions raised by all this. And by the way, this is nothing new. I believe this was taking place all the way from Genesis chapter 6, to be honest. And so, Nimrod was a champion, but he was a boss, but he wasn't a good guy, right? And so who cares if you are genetically modified and you become superior if you just don't know God? You can be a Nimrod and bring terrible pain upon humanity. And so I think this is all pride. This is all hubris, that we think we could do this, or we think we ought to do this, or to even go as far as to think that we have the responsibility to do this now, which is where a lot of this moral argument is going toward, saying, if you could get rid of this bad, isn't that a good thing? It's like, no, because, and he's like, are you seriously saying that it's a good to keep something that is a genetic deformity in your line if you could get rid of it? And I was like, I didn't say that either. I said that to think that you absolutely have to use whatever means to get rid of it is not morally correct, meaning we still don't believe as Christians that the ends justify the means. So if you could get rid of it, sure, but the means are important. What's the means behind it? And if you're like, oh, I'm going to not just do this, I'm going to open the door to this, or I'm not sure about the full ramifications of this one action, then how do you even know? You don't know. That's the point is you don't know. And I remember my wife was getting testing for our baby when she was pregnant, and it was something that they just did. They're gonna test the baby, and just to see if there's gonna be any genetic deformities. I was like, no, just opt out of it. I don't care. It's like, what, are we not gonna have the baby? It's like, wouldn't it help us prepare better? It's like, no, I don't think so. I don't think it would help us prepare us. So I was telling my wife, I vehemently disagree with us doing this genetic testing for the baby. Whatever the baby is born with, then we'll take it. We'll love the baby and raise it. Well, don't you want to prepare yourself? We'll prepare ourselves. Just because 3 months in advance doesn't make you better prepared. That's ridiculous. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. So I am on the more extreme side of even genetic testing. I'm not for that. I don't even care about the baby's gender. But it's like, do you want to know the gender? It's like, yeah, I don't know the gender. It's like, if you know it, fine. But if you don't know, that's fine too, And so we've lived all these, millennia without knowing beforehand until the baby came out, whether it was a boy or a girl, and we were fine.
Yeah.
And now we have to know, It's like, you don't have to know. You can find out at the end. Who cares? I was like, oh, but, what will we paint the room? Who cares what you're going to paint the room, pink or blue? Like, the baby is going to be a blessing.
Pink room is kind of tough, though, I think.
A pink room for a boy?
No, just in general, like a pink room. I don't think I've ever been in a pink room before.
Okay.
Just a white room.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a pink room?
I'm sure I have.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. Have you?
I think that's what a spy would say.
But I think kind of it is related to this, and it's kind of going down this rabbit hole of technology and medicine and human sovereignty in a sense, right? Because that's really at the end of the day, even with genetic modifications or expression or whatever the technology that we're going for, it's all for human control, right?
Yeah, we think. I mean, so the ramifications, like I talked about, are so short-sighted. There is a movie in the '90s that came out that kind of explored some of it, and that was a movie called Gattaca with Ethan Hawke, Jude Law.
I've
Uma
heard about
Thurman.
Gattaca.
Yeah, it's about genetic modification of babies and things
Yeah.
like that. And in the end, the whole point was, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of great stuff in there, but the whole point was Ethan Hawke's character couldn't go to space travel because he wasn't genetically disposed, so he wouldn't be able to handle it. His heart's too weak, and so they already scratched it. But his dream was to be an astronaut, right? And so he fakes. He gets another person's like heartbeat and his like genetic thumbprint and blood and all that. And in the end, he does go to the moon. That's the point. He's able to go. And so, you know, if you start going down that line, why would I hire somebody who I know is going to be genetically disposed to, let's say, heart attacks, and then there's a guy who is not, and I want this person to work here long term? Why would I'll just hire that, you know? And then like you keep on going down the line. You might like, yeah, of course. You know, if you're an employer, why would you hire somebody, you know, who, you know, is genetically this and that and could have this disposition versus a guy who is not genetically this. So it's a lot about, we think we know the answer, and I'm telling you that you don't. We don't account for the fact that every life has dignity, has worth, that is invaluable, and as Michael Scott would say, incalculable.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and because of the image of God, and so when you forego that very basic foundational understanding of the human being, then yeah, you know, we're just robots to be modified. We could just switch this and on and off and things like that. And, you know, that aspect of the Imago Dei just goes out the window. And yeah, of course, the natural progression is we'll be treated like just, you know, cattle on a herd or robots on an assembly line or something like that.
So this is much, I guess, more mellow than genetic modifications. But can't we say the same thing, maybe even to other scientific methods of medicine, like even medicine, vaccines, any type of thing where we are not allowing the body to heal for itself, but we're, you know, admitting foreign things into our body to help with the healing process. Isn't that along the same line? Aren't we just trying to have control? Aren't we using technology for our own benefit? Like, can't people say, hey, what's this? Taking Advil and genetic modification are just two steps apart.
Yeah, I believe that's what Todd White said. So you are making the argument of Todd White.
I'm not making I wasn't arguing anybody.
That's what a spy would say too.
There
You have been
seems-
exposed in this episode.
seems to be-
I think the episode title should be Sam the Spy for North Korea.
Ooh.
Yeah, Pyongyang is where he's at. We're actually recording somewhere close to Pyongyang.
Not even remotely close, actually.
Remotely, we're close. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where we have gone so far off the reservation that we can't even tell the difference between genetic modification and, let's say, getting vaccines so you bolster your immune system. mRNA stuff is, you know, on I get it. That's like on the brink of cusp of the ethics that we're going through. But just talking about vaccines and inserting dead, you know, diseases, dead cells for your immune system to figure out how to fight it in the end or significantly weaken, right? I think that's what the flu vaccine was all about, or was supposed to be about. I don't know about now, but that's what you know, the idea behind flu vaccines were. And so, you know, people got vaccines. And so if you think that vaccines are like bad and then taking Tylenol is bad, and Yeah, I think we'll probably have to do another podcast on that. Look, if you don't take Tylenol and you want to take it sparingly, that's fine too. That's what I would say. Like, take Tylenol sparingly. But if you think it's just like morally evil, then
As
that's
evil
something.
as, or morally as, maybe
Like IVF, that's
right,
another that's
morally
another thing.
gray as, genetic modification.
By the way, we should make that disclaimer too. A lot of disclaimers that if you are an IVF baby, you're not bad. Like,
oh no, yeah.
If you were birthed through IVF, you're not bad.
No.
We're saying like these are not just moral gray areas. There's actual harm in IVF that's done through the process, and we've laid that out. But if you were born through IVF, you yourself, we would celebrate life.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
the
of
same
course.
thing with, if someone has a baby out of wedlock, the Christian would celebrate the life.
Yes, of
and
course,
we would
yeah.
try to have, the single parent maybe help them raise their kid in the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
Yeah.
And so, it's obviously not ideal. We wouldn't encourage it either. It is a sin to do certain things, but the life of a baby, that is most precious in God's eyes, and so in ours as well.
I mean, the reason why I even brought up this topic, like you said, it is speculation with Eileen Gu and with Alysa Lily. We don't know for certain, what happened with them and birth and whatnot. But I think just even that topic brought to mind just that idea of Christian ethics and these types of genetic modifications and whatnot that people are talking about now. And that's why I even bring it up. It's because, where are the Christian ethics in a field like this where it seems like we're coming upon this type of technology where it can be dangerous. It can be morally...
I think that's what you're probably leading up to is, if I could have a designer baby,
right,
and it increases their chances of winning an Olympic gold, like
is that
100-fold.
wrong necessarily?
Is that wrong? And we're saying, it's wrong. Don't have designer babies so that you want to raise Olympians. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Right. And so, first of all, you're putting it on them, a terrible, terrible burden. And secondly, the chances of them winning is still very minuscule. 100 times, what are the chances of you having even an athletic baby? What is it, like a lottery number? So 100 times that is still a very small number.
Yeah.
And so those are things that you probably want to, in the end, I think you would trust in the Lord more. And just know that even if your baby doesn't win gold for the Olympics, that baby is here because of God. And that there is something that God would want from this child, and he will be glorified by. And so those are things that you could celebrate and that you can actually rejoice in, like both your kids.
One more story that I wanted to get into this morning is right now the rage is the list that has come back. A lot of people on the news are talking about the Epstein list. Prince Andrew, or I guess the ex-prince, who
was kicked out from the royal house.
He was arrested. Now we have Hillary and Bill Clinton being interrogated.
Interrogated.
Wait,
That's
what?
not the right word.
What is it? Deposed?
Yeah.
Deposed is the right word?
Yeah. For questioning.
Questioning. And so I guess as we're seeing all this unravel, it seems like everyone is just jumping on the next person. Like, who are we going to get next? It's how is a Christian supposed to see news like this, which, if true, is terrible? But how do we think through this as this is kind of unraveling itself and people are finding out the truth and, there's things that are being exposed? How do we think through this entire thing? Because this is the biggest news story that people are seeing constantly. Also, not to mention there's like names like Bill Gates on there and all these foreign dignitaries and leaders and stuff like that. So it makes you think, is every leader just guilty? Is every powerful person on the planet just guilty of these heinous crimes? And if so, like, how are we to even think about this? Does this just mean that we're being led by perverts? Like, what?
For sure, there are, nefarious actors all over the world because we live in a sinful world.
Yeah.
I don't think it should surprise anybody if we find out. But I think the Christians should be wary of putting down judgment before you have evidence. I keep on reading some of these threads on Reddit and Quora and all these they're more left leaning, but they already passed judgment saying the Epstein files are released. Is it no wonder that blankety blank is a pedophile? It's like, but none of the Epstein files implicated this person to be a pedophile, and they would say, I think I just said there's something wrong with you people in one of the forums, but it doesn't matter. It's just whatever narrative that you've been thinking. It doesn't matter what the evidence is. A Christian needs to watch out. You need to start to learn how to give charity, where if you're not sure, I would lean on the side of charity, but you're already, imagining that these people are crooks, they're blah, blah, blah. I mean, if there's evidence, or if there's evidence leaning toward a way, perhaps, but even then, you should be wary of pronouncing absolute judgment on somebody. You could be like, yeah, it sounds really fishy. I don't know. You kind of take a step back. That's one thing. But to say this person is an absolute pedophile, that's another. And you got to watch out for that. That's slander. That's gossip. Especially if it turns out to be untrue. Man, you have to stand before the Lord and to have to say that. Like, oh yeah, I just decided whoever I wanted it to be guilty is guilty. That's something I would take very good care in making sure I don't do. So that's something to watch out for the Epstein files. People tell me things all the time saying, Trump was implicated in Epstein files. I'm like, okay, show me where. And they're like, it says this and this. And it's like, no, it doesn't say this and this. It says this and this. And did you know it says this and this? And they're like, I didn't. Can you send me the pages? Like, absolutely, because I did my research, right? And so people are just taking other people's word for it, which I wouldn't do. It's like, oh, the Epstein file says this about your political enemy. But give me the reference, give me the footnote, And so I think people are running amok now because all 3 million pages were released at one time, obviously with the redactions. But, we could argue about whether that was a good move or not. I think that was a bad move, but all these people wanted the Epstein files, so Trump said, okay, here they are, which is not necessarily always the good thing to do to give people what they want. But, we are where we are.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and we'll find out more as, I guess, more information comes out. But it's just been something to keep an eye out on, because that's what's on the news now. That's what we see. And so I think there's sometimes for Christians that are seeing things like this, it could be discouraging to a certain extent.
I suppose, but in the end, sin shouldn't surprise you, but it should disappoint you. And so you can be disappointed, but I would always say watch your heart. If you end up being bitter, or if you end up feeling helpless, that's worse. And that's the thing about these conspiracy theories. Like they make you end up feeling helpless, like you have no control, you have zero autonomy over your life, because it's these dark overlords that are controlling everything about you that they want to. These are all lies. I don't know what else to say. That's a demonic lie. You can worship the Lord, and that may be the greatest freedom that we have. And so some things to continue to praise the Lord for, and I hope that you don't fall for that kind of rhetoric.
Yeah, that's helpful for us. To end the podcast today, I did want to announce that our very own Brian Lee has an article that was published.
That's true.
Why is he shaking his head as if he doesn't want this?
It's not on his Substack,
this.
so if you're following 17BLI,
it won't be there.
It won't be there because he decided not to give that to his followers, but to give it to standingforfreedom.org. Is it com or org, Brian? Com. Standingforfreedom.com.
Yeah.
And then you could check out Brian's article on designer babies.
It's actually on the front page of standingforfreedom.com right now. It's titled A Subtle Eugenics, How Prenatal Screening Fuels Abortion by Design.
Say what you got to say, Jansuki.
No, I want Dawei to leave his congratulatory remarks.
So
I'll link it in the description.
it's kind of short, though. I guess he didn't really do a lot of work, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I could write 2 paragraphs.
No,
You know what I
did
mean?
you write so long for our devotionals?
I think people were genuinely upset. Because there's a view count that you can see in our devotionals. I think people opened it. They got so upset. In protest, they closed it.
He clearly told us 250 words.
So a lot of people don't know this. You could look up Lenten devotionals in our website, cgsnj.org/Lent. And each of our staffers help write one per week. And then we were instructed to write something 250 to 300 words. And Sam comes out of nowhere and puts in like a 600-word devo.
It's because Pastor Paul was doing it. If anyone else is doing it out there.
Yeah, there is something else that we could talk about and mention. Honorable mention. 2 days ago would have been Pastor Sean Hong's first sermon for our church on Saturday. So he preached on 2 Samuel chapter 7.
Davidic covenant.
Yeah, the Davidic covenant. And so we haven't listened to it yet because it's tomorrow for us. But if you haven't listened to it, then I encourage you to check it out in our CGS NJ app. You could look up 2 Samuel, and the latest one will be Pastor Sean Hong preaching.
Thank you for that. Mine is pretty long now that I look at it.
What? That's what you did?
Like a paragraph.
You can tell.
What you need to do
that's
is
pretty
you need
good.
to keep on opening and closing it so you get your view count up.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
I don't know if you could do that. I don't know if that's how
Let
it
me
works.
see refresh works. Oh! Refresh does the job. Whoa.
yours is popping off.
Mine's popping off. I got 58 views.
60.
Anyway, sometimes it be
Now
like
we
that.
know how many times Sam pressed refresh.
Sometimes it really be like that. It's a 4-minute read, though, so thank you for that, Pastor Gene. And thank you, Brian, for the article. I think everyone has enjoyed it. Thank you, Brian, for that article. And we thank you for listening to this episode of the Dear Church podcast. Join us next week. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing in your ears. Fight the good fight. Finish the race. Keep the faith. Peace.